So the plans with this car is to use the S550 Mustang Gen 2 Coyote and transmission. I'm also going to be using the harness, that way I can use everything as far as the wiper motor, the heated seats, and infotainment center, and cruise control, and all that good stuff. So that being said, there are a lot of things that need to be added to this car and modified for everything to properly work, and one of those things is the ABS sensor. I didn't really record much in the front, but I am going to show the rear. I can show you how I have the front set up now. So inside here, originally I was going to run two to the front on each side. That way, you know, an entire car, 4 wheels, has 4 sensors. But I didn't have a way to properly get the rears to work until now, and I'm going to show that. But for now, with these in the front, I'm just going to take one out and plug the hole on each side, so I have one sensor for the front left and the front right. All right, so we talked a little bit about the fronts. The fronts was fairly easy, not too difficult. The sensor that's supposed to be on the rear of the S550, I'm actually using in the front, and then the front sensor I'm using in the rear. And that's just because of how everything lines up with the 370Z stuff. It's just the way I have to do it. Okay, so we're gonna go to the rear, and it started with this tone ring. This is from a front S550 Mustang wheel bearing assembly. So I wasn't sure on the size of this, but I went ahead and ordered it. I pulled it off, and then we put it in the lathe, machined it down, and got it to fit the half shaft on the 370Z side. And yeah, it worked out pretty good. Tacked it in 6 different spots. And that was that. So now we have something for the ABS sensor to read. All right, so now we go to the 3D printed piece, which is this guy right here. This is printed out of ASA plastic with the max amount of walls that you can print and little to no infill. That makes this very, very strong. I don't really see this breaking, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know, long term, maybe it will break and we'll revisit it. This is probably something that I can make out of aluminum down the road if it does. This is just an idea, and we'll see if it works. All right, so I wanted to talk about this 3D printed piece I made and the idea behind it, and I guess how it works. So we have a front S550 Mustang ABS wheel speed sensor. This has been modified. I clipped the bottom off and I ground down the ear. I thought I had to do that because of room restrictions, but I believe I could have just left that alone. But it is what it is. It works the way it's supposed to, and it doesn't really affect anything. It's mostly aesthetics at this point. So I matched the profile inside here to this, so that way this can get inserted. Everything lines up, and those 2 ears make this so it doesn't move back and forth, which is good. We don't want this wobbling around. And then I have 2 holes that are set in very specific spots. Those holes were aligned to where I could get 35 thousandths air gap from this sensor to the teeth. I use this tool that go inside here and allows me to keep a 35 thousandths air gap while I bolt everything up. So I put this up against the knuckle, and I set this to where it's square right on top. And then I marked my holes, drilled and tapped them, and then this piece gets taken out, and that is the air gap that's left over. All right, so after all that work, we're finally here. I can test it. So I got my DC power supply, around 4 to 5 volts. Applying voltage to the plug. It's going to feed to the ABS sensor, of course. Then we have our sensor right here that's going to read that tone ring. As this spins around, I should be able to see that current change. All right, so I'm going to spin this pinion, which is going to spin this. All right, so just like that. As I do that, you can see the amperage change. So that works the way it's supposed to. As it spins around and reads that teeth, you know, the magnets are going to pick up on each other, and it's going to fluctuate in current as it does that. And that's what we could see right here. So that's reading properly. It's the way it's supposed to work. So there are other ways to test an ABS sensor, but that's just the way that I'm doing it here. This is a Hall effect sensor. It is a 2-wire, which is a little bit more difficult to test. But with this way, all I need to see is that amperage change to figure out if it actually is reading or it's not. And if it wasn't reading, it wouldn't do anything at all. Amperage would not jump around. And yeah, so obviously you could see it jumped around. We're good. If there are problems down the road, as far as like signal strength or adjustment between that sensor and the teeth, I mean, we'll come across that and fix it. But as of right now, it looks like it'll work. So yeah, pretty happy with it. It threw me for a loop a little bit here. This spacer ended up pushing this wheel bearing assembly this way. It pulled that axle with it. And when it did that, this tone ring adjustment where I had it previously, well, it went that way with that spacer, and it threw my alignment off for the sensor. So I ended up having to modify this knuckle a little bit to be able to get the ABS sensor to also go with it too. All right, so I think that's it for this project as far as the ABS sensors go. Everything works the way it's supposed to. I got one in each corner now instead of just 4 in the front. So I'll be able to read each individual tire, and I think the system will work the way it's supposed to. I mean, I have the OEM sensor that's supposed to go with the OEM wheel. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really see me having too many problems. It's going to plug right into the original harness. Everything is just kind of OEM, just been modified a little bit. And I'll show you a little bit close up, I guess, of how this is set up. So the only thing I'm not 100% sure is the air gap. I just kind of referenced off of a Ford manual. There's quite a bit of range. I think it's like 0.5 to 1.5 millimeters. So I mean, there's a decent range that it'll read. And I'm pretty sure I set it just close to middle. And I don't know. I don't see myself having too many problems. What I do see potentially having a problem with is the sensor getting dirty. And OEM is pretty much sealed, or at least almost sealed. So I don't know. We'll see. All right, I think that's it for this one. I think most likely I'm probably going to put the engine in next. We'll get the rear finished up, get some tires on it, and then we'll start coming back up here, start doing the exhaust, and I believe probably harnesses next after that. So yeah, stay tuned. What do you guys think about these rims? I actually don't mind them. I think I might clean up a pair and probably use them in the back for like burnout tires or something.